How's it going, everybody? So, it's been a minute. It's okay. I honestly wasn't really sure about what I want to talk about in this video, but I want to just kind of do it so that I can post something out, and like I have a feeling that the energies that need to come out will come out. They'll be articulated in their own way. So, one thing that I've been doing a lot of is self-observation and compassionate, it's like compassionate self-observation. So it's like the observing of the self and all its nuances, and by the self I mean the ego self, and also just the body and the mind and how they work together. And it's like observation of the actual acts of the body mixed with the observation of the mind, and seeing how they interlace together in order to be able to create a spirit for you. So what I mean by that is like you have a spirit that you live in, meaning like you live in this space of consciousness, and that is your spirit. And the physical sensations that you have in your body are associated in your mind, and the mind activity is correlated with bodily sensations. So to be able to observe all of these things for what they are and start to like experience the connections between what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what you're experiencing in your external world can be very powerful. Not only for growth in spiritual consciousness, but also just for general like understandings of human beings in general. Like a lot of people don't take the time to kind of observe themselves and what they're doing. Like it's gotten to the point where I see myself doing things, and I feel myself thinking specific mind patterns, and I watch it all happen, and I can see the triggers, I can see what causes it in the middle of it, I can see what dissolves it. And to observe that is it's an interesting and liberating thing, because when you see the insanity of the ego mind and you see the things that you convince yourself of and the reasonings that you give yourself behind things, and like you see how, first of all, how, and then secondly also how easy it is to get caught up in mind streams and to be caught and pulled into a space where you were here, and then you just get caught into one mind stream, and then next thing you know you're way down here like a week later and you've been absent the whole time. And I find that really interesting, right? It's like the more that you become conscious all the time, you start to notice when you become unconscious, and then it gets to the point where you can see yourself in unconsciousness while still being conscious. And that's when it gets kind of trippy, because when that happens, then all of a sudden you start to literally like, you can see your waves, your ebbs and flows. So it's like you can see your ego come through, and then you can feel it like cling on, or you can feel yourself go completely unconscious. What I mean by that is to like, to what would normally be a period of low consciousness activity, you could experience that period of low consciousness activity from a space where you're also observing it from a high consciousness state. And then when that happens, then the high consciousness state and the low consciousness activity kind of merge together. And then the low consciousness activity actually becomes an activity of liberation, or a high consciousness activity, because you then start to use that kind of like observation of the self in order to gain spiritual insight on yourself. And when I mean spiritual insight, what I mean by that is not like learning how the world works or whatever. It's just seeing yourself from a more spiritual perspective. And what that entails is literally just non-attachment and non-bias as well. You get to a point also, and this is why I say compassionate looking as well, because when I say compassionate, what I mean is that like you see the things that you even don't like about yourself, and you witness those things, and then you literally just love those things the same way that you would love the positive experiences that you have. And you start to kind of like incorporate the negative and the positive in a way where you start to like experience what would be considered by yourself as negative energy, but since you're so detached from it, that negative energy, as soon as you see it coming through and you feel it as a physical sensation, you're able to reinterpret that negative energy, and then through the reinterpretation of that energy, it then is transmuted into positive energy. And I'm going to make another video really quick. I may actually just go ahead and end this one and then make another one on energy transmutation, because that seems like a topic that I wanted to go into. But this is literally just about self-observation and talking about the power of like watching all the activities of yourself. And that's literally all you have to do. You don't even have to make any changes, do anything. All you have to do is just observe the things that you're doing from a perspective that's not attached to the things. And also to see when your mind starts trying to cling on to things, thinking that they're going to make you feel better. And then it's like you watch your mind tell yourself, oh, if you do this, then you'll feel better afterwards. And then what happens is you start to get to a point where you realize that you're never actually going to feel better afterwards, because there is no such thing as afterwards. When you do something and then you feel better afterwards, then what happens is that you literally have just allowed yourself to feel better because of some sort of method that you chose to do. But that doesn't mean that the method itself was the thing that made you feel better. It was just the fact that you allowed yourself to feel better through that method. You see what I mean? There's this shift in perspective to see that it's the same exact thing, except you see it from a perspective that is able to disconnect from the kind of like being controlled by the ego. And you start to see that, yes, the body can still be controlled by the ego, but if you're aware of that happening as it's happening, then that control lessens and lessens and lessens and lessens and lessens and lessens until it gets to the point where you can just, like, instead of being pulled into these activities or pulled into these kinds of like lower consciousness feelings or any of that kind of stuff, you notice it as soon as it comes through. And since you're so aware, so observational of your emotions and your experiences, you're able to literally just disconnect from that emotion or feeling, and then just redirect your attention to some other feeling, and then just reconnect to that feeling that you change your attention to, because it's almost like, because you're the observer instead of the ego mind. You're not caught up in the fact that you're feeling bad or good, or like you're not caught up in the fact that this is uncomfortable or something like that. You're able to detach yourself from that. And then what happens is that you can then choose, as if you're an observational, like, or as you're an observer, like what feelings you want to interpret these sensations as. So it's like, if you want to think about it like scientifically, like you have to have a neuron move from one place to another in your mind before the actual signal is sent to it. And I'm not sure where that came from or why I even said that in the first place. But there that is. I don't remember. I don't know. Never mind. Sorry. That was weird. I had some sort of analogy to give to you, but I'm sure that it'll come through for whoever that was meant for. Anyways, point being though is that observing all of the activities of the mind and the body and how they link together is an extremely powerful exercise for being able to disconnect yourself from the ego mind and to be able to actually experience reality from a more objective or unbiased perspective. Okay, so yeah, so I wanted to do one on energy transmutation, and I think I may do one also on just the chakras or the energy of the chakras, and talking more about how to cleanse some of each of the chakras and like what exactly they are and what they do, and why you feel specific ways, and how that is, or it's like what or how your feelings are connected to the chakra system, and how to, by knowing how to manipulate the chakras, or knowing how to manipulate your own energy in your chakra system and move the energy from one space to another, how by knowing that you can actually change the way that you feel by moving that energy into a different center. And then also I wanted to describe, also go deeper into how each one of the energy centers is actually a state of consciousness, and how that state of consciousness is corollary with a specific feeling or a way of being. And if you're able to stabilize and center your consciousness in specific places in your body, then you can actually experience extended states of consciousness that are vastly more powerful, I guess you can call it, than a normal sober waking state of consciousness. And it's like you don't have to do anything for it. It's just all you have to do is just kind of like be open enough to where you can experience that. Okay, so I will go into now energy transmutation, and this has been an interesting kind of weird video. I'm gonna post it anyways, but throughout the speaking of it, it's been feeling like it's like all over the place, but I have a feeling that it's probably gonna resonate, like the words that I said will probably resonate with somebody, so I'll post it up anyways. So energy transmutation next. So namaste, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night or day or whatever you're experiencing right now. So thank you.